So a few people have asked me why I left the Social Democratic Party, especially after running round the Isle of Wight and Bedfordshire and saying to people, if I stood in a general election, would you vote for me? For those that don't know, I was brought up on a council estate in Battersea where it was drilled into us, you must vote Labour, you must vote Labour. I joined the police and I was on the miners' strike as a very young police officer. I joined and virtually went straight from Luton up to the minefields of Nottinghamshire and South Yorkshire. And seeing our communities were ripped apart, I had a loathing for Margaret Thatcher, I'm not going to lie. So that shaped me, and I've always thought to myself, I'd like to make things better. People pretty well know what I stand for: fairness, equality, free speech. I think that's being dramatically reduced in the UK, all over the Western world really. So I thought, well, put your money where your mouth is and stand. So I'll tell you a little bit about my life in politics. I originally joined the Liberal Democrats when Charles Kennedy was leader because I respected and liked Charles Kennedy. When he was no longer leader, I didn't like some of the policies. I've never been pro-EU. It's always looked to me to be dictatorial, and always looked as though we're putting more in than we're getting out. So ideal for your holiday though, ideal not to have to show a passport. But other than that, I couldn't see the point. I'd rather have control over your own borders, control over your own sovereignty. I've actually stood in a line for work with some really nice Polish people who haven't known whether they're going to get work for that day outside a factory. A load of agency workers. I felt really sorry for them. And again, I thought this is down to the EU. I don't stand for that. But I respect everyone else's view. I don't name call or anything. So I left the Liberal Democrats, and then basically what happened was I was looking for a party who would vote against the first past the post system of voting in the 2011 referendum on the way we vote. We eventually voted for first past the post, but I didn't vote for that. I voted for proportionate representation because every vote counts in my opinion then. So I looked online and I found a party called the National Liberal Party. As the name suggests, everything seemed fine to me, but they were nationalist from the point of view of they didn't like being part of the EU. But when I went to the initial meeting, there were people of all colours from all parts of the world: India, Pakistan, Jamaica, all over. And I joined. And I did a few articles for them, including that one where I joined an agency and stood in line with some of the EU immigrants that had come over in search of a better life. And I couldn't blame them for that. Nice people just doing what anyone would do for their family, but treated like crap when they got here. Loads of them having to live in a room with mould by some landlord that ripped them off, and it was sad to watch. But anyway, I did a few articles and did the social media, quite a bit of social media for them, and eventually I got asked if I'd be party secretary. I went to a couple of committee meetings. Everyone was really, really nice. It was multicultural. All colours, faiths were represented, and I didn't think anything untoward until someone told me that a couple of the leaders had been former National Front members. I confronted them with that, and there was no hide and seek. They said, yeah, we were, but people change. And I've got no reason, even to this day, to believe that they haven't changed. You know, that they hadn't changed. I've got no reason whatsoever, because all the time I was with that party, I never saw any racist comments. I never saw any bigotry. All I saw was a love, really, for all nations and all peoples. So, but I left. I left because of that reason. And I then stayed out of the political sort of area for 3-4 years before I joined the Liberal Party. And the reason I joined the Liberal Party was because they were for Brexit. I know a lot of my friends, some of the people who watch this didn't vote for Brexit, but you know my feelings on it. And we'll beg to differ, and I still love you all. And so I was with the Liberal Party. I found that the communications weren't that great there, and just came away from it really. And then I found the Social Democratic Party. Someone said to me, that's a party that's for Brexit. So I joined them. Yeah, they seemed a good bunch. I liked most of the things that they stood for. With any political party, you don't agree with everything. But they were sort of patriotic leaning and but slightly left leaning on economics. You know, they were going to put money into house building and that sort of thing. I met William Clouston, the leader, when I was out leafleting for someone, and he seemed a really nice guy. I watched some of his interviews and I thought, well, there's a safe pair of hands and someone that knows what he's doing. He'd stood, I believe, for the Conservative Party, but I liked the leader. I liked the people that I met there. I thought, great. Well, start of this year, I applied to, maybe a bit later, maybe March. I applied to be a candidate at next year's general election. I was told, yeah, that's fine, Glenn. We'd like to have you. I decided to run for West Wight on the Isle of Wight. I've spoken to a lot of you that are watching this. This is the reason I'm doing the video, actually. I spoke to a lot of you and garnering a little bit of support, certainly enough to hopefully keep my deposit. And I was going to get some leaflets printed, and I kept writing to the SDP, kept writing and emailing and saying, I need to get these leaflets printed. Do I need to use the party email on them or what? A week went by, no answer. 2 weeks went by, no answer. Third week, I got a phone call from a committee member saying that they would phone me on the Saturday. And I've not had an answer. I didn't have an answer to the emails. On the Saturday, I got a phone call telling me that the National Liberal Party were going to go on to the party's banned list. So after being a member of the SDP for 4 years, I had the choice to either resign or be expelled from the party. So that's why I left the SDP. People have said to me, some of you watching this have said to me, you're probably better off out of it, because if people have got that little loyalty and that little respect to even reply to your email, that's not the way a professional organisation should be working. And whilst I'm not going to diss the SDP, and if they had a candidate in my area and the party I'm with now didn't have a candidate, I would still vote for the SDP. Nothing I've said about William Clouston or the party really has changed. Right at the start, when I was going to stand for a candidate, I was told by someone, you know, they went full circle on COVID. They were for lockdowns and mandated vaccines first of all, and then did a 360 turn basically. But I 180 turn, isn't it? I was told 360, but I'm standing here. It's 180. And that put me on edge a bit. So perhaps it's all happened for a good reason. But that's the reasons, folks. That's what I thought I'd do a quick video telling you why I'm now promoting another party. I'd left the SDP, and someone who I'd been speaking to online, trying actually to get to join, they just joined a party called the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom. The Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Party, the ADF Party. And he told me the leader was a guy called Dr. Tek Kong. And they said to me, you two would get on great. And he's a doctor, and he was really sort of worried about what he was seeing during COVID. He wasn't convinced by the vaccines. He thought a lot of things that the official narrative was saying wasn't right. And he was basically cancelled because of it. And I thought, well, whether you agree with the COVID narrative or not, there's a guy with principles, because he didn't turn 180 degrees or 360. He, like I, is concerned about the immigration numbers. I'm not against people coming here wanting a better life. But what I am against, with the world being as it is undocumented people getting on boats, being allowed into the country and dropped off at hotels and allowed just to walk about. And now, surprise, surprise, they're saying, oh, we've got some terrorists. We've got some known terrorists walking around the British countryside. You just know it's going to kick off. You just know it's going to kick off. And multiculturalism, well, that's a different subject. A long, long time ago, I was a police officer in Luton and I had my concerns then. But that's for another video. I just wanted to tell you, look at the ADF Party. They basically want to join small parties together because we do need change. Well, you waste your vote if you don't vote for Conservatives or Labour. No, you don't. You waste your vote if you do vote for them. At some point, we need to say no more. Labour have let us down. Blair taking us into an illegal war on lies. Not doing everything they said they'd do. Not keeping up with a social housing building. I was in Hackney the other day, they've got a 16-year waiting list for a council house or a housing association house. And sorry to say it again, but the levels of immigration we've got, that's only going to get bigger. Something needs to happen, and these Tories are just running the country down to the ground. I've had two people, well, earlier on, actually, last year, I was taken into hospital by ambulance and I waited 8.5 hours in a corridor. I've had two relations in the last couple of weeks. Again, one, 16 hours in a corridor before they were seen. That's the NHS. We can't keep putting up with Labour and the Tories. Anyway, that's me. So many people have asked why I've suddenly defected from the SDP to the ADF. It's complicated. I'm going for the alphabet. But that's the reason. I didn't defect. I was expelled. And to me, it wasn't handled in the best of ways, like grown adults should handle things. So that's me, ADF, and whether I stand or not for them remains to be seen. But I certainly like what I've seen so far. So for a small party, they've got the policies that I personally like. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, bye for now.